And I actually wanted to go back to a narration that Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates from our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the very beginning of Ramadan. And I want you to imagine the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ascending the pulpit to give a declaration at the very beginning of this month of Ramadan. So put yourself in Medina, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to announce what is most important about this month. And he stands up sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he says sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this month has come upon you, and in this month there is a single night that is better than 1,000 months, and whoever is deprived of its goodness has been deprived of all goodness, and no one is deprived except for one who is indeed deprived, mahroom. So who is the one that is mahroom? Who is the one that's forbidden? And the scholars say if you plug this hadith, many of the scholars of hadith said if you plug this hadith into the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ once again ascends the minbar. The minbar of the Prophet ﷺ had its 2 steps to the top. And so every step that he took, he said, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. And what was the context? He said, Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel Gabriel, the one who comes down on the night of power with all of the angels to come and record the worship and the forgiveness of the servant. Jibreel came upon me and he made dua against, he supplicated against, khaba wa khasr, ab'adahu Allah wa adkhalahu an-nar. Multiple narrations here. He is distant from God and entered into Jahannam. Who? And he said 3 things. The very first one, who Ramadan comes upon and he is not forgiven. Many of the scholars said if you take this hadith of Laylatul Qadr, the very first one, and plug it into this one, then the explanation of that would be a person who was present in Ramadan and present with Laylatul Qadr, present with that night that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and is deprived, i.e. not forgiven. Is the one who is mahroom, the one who sleeps a few extra hours on Laylatul Qadr because they have work the next day, or they got really tired, they intended to come to the masjid at 3 a.m. but they ended up sleeping until 3:45. Does that person wake up and say, I'm mahroom, and cry and say that I did not catch Laylatul Qadr? Is mahroom the sister that can't pray the night of Laylatul Qadr because of circumstances out of her control? Is the mahroom the person who has a health issue or has a sickness to where they just can't stand up during the night and pray? Is the mahroom a person who doesn't read too much Quran on that night? Is a mahroom a person who doesn't make enough dua on that night? None of those things are true. First of all, the Prophet ﷺ said that if a person intends a good deed but they are withheld from it because of sickness or travel, meaning a circumstance out of their control, then Allah records for them that act of worship as if they would have done it perfectly. That's a good opinion of Allah. Allahumma innaka afu tuhibbul afwa. Because Allah loves to reward and Allah loves to forgive. So you put that away. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade you from one form of good on that night, He's recorded it for you, inshaAllah ta'ala. Exert yourself in the other forms of good. The mahroom is a person who is absolutely negligent. And the scholars say 2 things make a person mahroom. Number 1, not establishing the obligations of that time. And 2, whoever sins on that night. You might be thinking, I'm not going to be sinning on Laylatul Qadr. But what a mahroom person you would be. See someone out in the parking lot at 4 a.m. after you finished your night of prayer, and then you're talking to that person and you say, hey, you heard about that person, and throw a sly comment towards them. What a mahroom person you would be. I hope no one in this masjid would do this, to be on social media, backbiting someone, or looking around, with the sins of the eyes during that night of Laylatul Qadr. What a mahroom person you would be. What a deprived person. So deprivation is not doing the bare minimum and sinning. Meaning what? That means that if you are just present and you just fulfill the obligations, the bare minimum, and you don't commit sins intentionally, insha'Allah ta'ala, you caught Laylatul Qadr. That's a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't, sit there and be depressed at the end of the night and say, I don't think I caught Laylatul Qadr and I'm mahroom. No.